TLO, what's poppin'? We are on Twitch. We are live, but by the time you see this, we won't be. So just leave a like, comment, subscribe. Turn on your post notification bells. Let's continue to grow the family from Chicago to the UK, man. Right behind me, you see it. Little warning screen. Probably needed. So it's there. Patreons where you can catch any YouTube TV series. Movies, maybe. And Premier League highlights. Twitch.com is where you can catch a live stream. Usernames at the bottom. This is Coffee House Crime. No, we only 40 seconds in. I ain't gonna talk to me real quick, then I'll tell you the title.
Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. No copyright infringement intended. All rights belong to their respective owners.
The Incel virgin who became a murderer. The case of Jake Davison. What the hell is Incel virgin? What does that mean? Is a I don't even know what that means. All right. I'll figure it out.
I know it's a movie, but I like to think sometimes, I'm a Terminator.
Oh, incel means involuntary celibate? Involuntarily celibate? So what they saying? He just can't get none? That's tough. He be trying, but he be, that's, all right.
I know it's a movie, but, I like to think sometimes, I'm a Terminator or something, and despite reaching almost total system failure, he keeps trying to accomplish his mission, When you get beaten down by life...
This is the case of Jake Davison. Jake was a hate-filled misogynist and incel who thought he was against the world. All the same, he believed he was entitled to women. With negligence towards his mental health and
Hold on, because I want to point something out. It looked like Jake could probably get a girl or two. Like, it looked like he possibly could pull. You know what I'm saying? No pause. I mean, pause. Like, I feel like he could get girls. He be talking himself out the vagine. That's what it is. Just be quiet. You know what I'm saying?
He believed he was entitled to women. With negligence towards his mental health.
And then they show this. Maybe not.
And negligence over the many warning signs this man had presented. Jake's beliefs would lead to one of the worst attacks in England in the recent decade. But how did it come to this? Who was Jake? And what were the missed opportunities? Welcome back to Coffee House Crime. My name is Adrian, and today we're talking about the delusional case of Jake Davison. With negligence towards mental health, social media, and firearms licenses, I feel there are many mistakes we can learn from in today's story. By the way, I post solved, unsolved, and strange cases here on a weekly basis, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, please consider subscribing to Coffee House Crime. So with that said,
I am subscribed. Am I still? I'm subscribed, right? Is my all? Okay, bet. He do be having some good stuff, I ain't gonna lie.
Let's get into it. Pull up a seat, grab a coffee, and sit back. This is the case of Jake Davison.
Coffee House Crime.
I know I said I'd be taking a break from my own country, but this was a real strange case. Today we're bringing things slightly closer to home and travelling down to the southwestern tip of England, landing in the picturesque county of Devon. Welcome to West Country. Devon, along with its neighbouring counties of Somerset and Cornwall, are known to be amongst the most beautiful areas in the UK.
It's always like beautiful areas with like vast amounts of land and nice little seashores that got the craziest people doing the wildest things. What's good, Lim?
Its rugged and windswept moors sweeping out over the horizon are home to many myths and legends, and supposedly fairies too. The coastlines boast some of the clearest and bluest oceans in the country, which crash against gorgeous cliffs and multiple registered areas of outstanding natural beauty. And this is just one of the many reasons that holidaymakers looking to get away within the UK choose this
I ain't gonna lie, this is outstanding. Gee, this is in Devon?
area for the time off. And it's here in the port city of Plymouth that we find the household of 22-year-old Jake Davison, who lived on Biddick Drive with his mother Maxine. Maxine was a single mother, and with the financial troubles of raising a child on your own, the pair lived in government-assisted housing, also known as council housing in the UK.
Raised by a single mom, no father in the household. Got it.
Both Jake and his mother had always lived in the Keam area of Plymouth, though prior to Jake's birth, Maxine had actually lived in the remote location of the Shetland Islands. And while living on the islands, she eventually became friends with a man named Mark Davison, a local fisherman. Which wasn't necessarily good news, as Mark was a well-known thug on the islands, often getting into fights and struggling with his alcohol problems. Well, conversations led to feelings, and before they knew it, the two of them welcomed two new babies into the world, Jake's older siblings Zoe and Josh. However, due to Mark's antisocial behaviour and tendency to drink, tensions between the couple grew over time. And shortly after falling pregnant with their third child Jake, the two separated. Maxine moving down to Keam, a small suburb found northwest of Plymouth. Unfortunately, this move would split Maxine and a newborn baby Jake from his brother and sister Zoe and Josh, who remained on the island.
With their dad.
Although Maxine had now moved far away from her family, she wasn't entirely isolated from them. Both she and Jake would often visit for long periods of time. However, while visiting, Jake's mother and grandparents grew increasingly worried about his behaviour. He was an extremely quiet individual, but also very quick to become irritable, and as a young child, he seemed to be developing anger issues.
Was he on the spectrum? That's a serious question.
Concern led Maxine to get Jake assessed for learning difficulties, and after a long assessment period, he was eventually diagnosed with autism.
I'm good. I promise you, I should be like a doctor or something. I heard some things and I just knew it.
Raising a child with autism can be a gift, but also a challenge, especially as a single mother. And as Jake turned 6 years old, she wasn't sure whether to send him to a public school or a specialised school for children with special needs. In the end,
that is a tough decision, but I'm going to be moving into a house with a child that has an autism. He's on the spectrum. That's how I knew. But like my general consensus, my general thought would be, for them first years, you got to put them in a school so they can work with them. Specialty. They got to work with them. Because if you put him in somewhere else, he could possibly get bullied, and things could go left.
And Maxim settled for Mount, or a specialised school for children with special needs. In the end, Maxim settled for Mount Tamar, a public-funded school for children with special needs and learning
Okay.
difficulties. The school was relatively small, with a maximum number of students at 110.
So they can focus on the needs of the children there.
However, it was critically underfunded by the government, and for this reason, didn't have the best reputation around. At school, Jake was known to be a quiet child that didn't get along with many. His autism meant that he found it difficult to socialise and relate with other children. And so, this is how Jake spent his childhood. Lonely. He would spend most of his free time with his mother and seeing family in the Shetland Islands, and in his teens, Jake would turn to the internet for friendship. Although he found it difficult to socialise in real life, Jake would find it easy online, playing video games and frequenting online forums. And although he was a quiet kid, he wasn't necessarily a bad kid.
That's the thing, man. Like, nowadays in 2024, it used to be like, man, your kids are online a lot, you gotta watch them. You gotta be careful. But now, now that they're streaming, there's YouTubers and X, Y, and Z, like, you don't really know what they're doing. Are you being antisocial or are you grinding? Like, you could be like, you still gotta watch closely.
Instead, neighbours described him as a pleasant boy, and every week he would go down to the supermarkets to help his mother with the shopping. It wasn't until Jake's late teens that he began to hold a very negative outlook on his life, and one of these main frustrations in his life was his inability to find a girlfriend. You see, Jake wanted nothing more than to lose his virginity, and this was apparent from his late teens all the way through to his adulthood. In fact, at the age of 22, Jake would frequently talk about this on his YouTube channel named Professor Waffle, often blaming his own mental barriers and
Professor Waffle, is that still a channel? Let me look. Apparently it's been deleted. Blazing told us in the chat, and I looked it up, and it is not there. Makes sense after what he
his appearance.
did.
Just looking at a girl, I can feel it, you know? Just you know? And I did have girls into me. I had girls into me. I had them into me. But f***ing stupid, ridiculous mental barriers like for me a lot of the reason I didn't was because I was fat as f***. You know? I sat there and think, how can I be on top of this girl with my fat thighs, my fat stomach, and I'm
Jake was wilding. I'm sorry, that's not funny. Woo, Jake was. Hey, Jake, you talked yourself out of that. None of that matters. Oh man, I'm sorry. That was funny. Oh my god, I shouldn't have laughed.
It was during his teenage years, at the age of 17, that cracks in Jake's personality began to form, and his actions, views and personal philosophies began to warp. One notable instance was in 2016, where he received a warning from police for attacking a 25-year-old man and his pregnant girlfriend, while they were walking around his local neighbourhood.
Why did he
The attack was completely unprovoked, and Jake allegedly punched this man almost 20 times. He was reported to the police. However, due to lack of evidence, they couldn't arrest Jake, and the incident was ultimately dropped.
Of course, UK judicial system at work again.
Throughout this entire incident, police didn't seem to take the victim's case seriously, and unfortunately, these details were never put on Jake's record. 1 year later, in June of 2017, Jake applied for a firearms license to own a shotgun. He'd been
Wouldn't have got that with that aggravated battery on there.
frequenting online gun forums via Reddit for quite some time, and now he wanted one himself. The UK holds relatively strict rules when it comes to firearm licenses. The long story short is you must be judged not to pose a threat to public safety, and you must have a very good reason why you want to own one. There was no substantial reason for Jake's application. He lived in a city, didn't live or work on a farm, and he certainly had no desire to shoot clay pigeons. Despite this, his application was strangely approved in 2018, and now Jake was legally allowed to own a firearm, and owned a pump-action shotgun. Which, to be honest, as a fellow English dude, doesn't sound normal at all here in the UK.
In 2018, somebody outside of a farm was approved for a firearm license in the United Kingdom.
Throughout his late teens and into his early adulthood, Jake fostered his own kind of ideologies in life, and he became more and more loathing of his own mother as she began to disagree.
And he lived in a council house. Yes, they see that. They knew he lived in a council house and still... Okay. Yeah.
With him, the two often fighting and getting into rather heated arguments. While Jake was a young boy, his mother received financial support from the government to keep them housed. But now he was over 18 years old, she was no longer eligible to receive that income. Jake didn't seem to realise how much this financially supported them. And now, without that benefit, he was forced to get a job, finding work as a scaffolder to help keep the house together. From here on out, Jake would often go online to post about how much he hated his mother, although nobody would really listen to him. And here, Jake...
Yeah, nobody's going to listen to you talk negatively about the woman who raised you. Nobody's going to listen about anybody who does that.
Would also complain about his encounters with women, how he felt they were all simple-minded, and how they only cared about money. Maxine didn't agree with many of her son's beliefs, from his nihilistic tendencies, all the way through to his thoughts about women.
A lot of women are very simple-minded and they ain't all that bright.
A lot of dudes are too, though. A lot of human beings are very simple-minded and not that bright. So you're not wrong. But it's not just women. It's men too. Men are dumb too.
You know, social media and thinking they're princesses and all this. They grow up. A lot of women are quite simple-minded. The only thing they understand is that. You know, you talk about intelligence, smartness. You know, women don't give a about none of that. Unless you got that. You know, do you think they care about the little autistic kid in the corner who's won the mathematical international Olympiad or whatever the hell? They don't give a if they said, oh yeah, the winning prize is $1.5 million.
I'm not gonna lie, Jake. You was looking at the wrong type of women. You was focused. Now I will say, if you're looking on social media for women, you're looking at the wrong spot. Like, you need to go to your strong suits. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you were smart, you should have went to go look for a woman in a library. You should have became a tutor to get closer to other tutor women. Because I'm pretty sure that's a woman-dominated field. You know what I'm saying? You just had to think outside the box. Social media is not it. Now, on social media, the things that you are saying, you cooking. You might be on to something. If that's where you looking. You got to pull up all social media, though.
Caravan.
For all the fellas out there looking for love on social media, DMing females, it's not going to happen. It's not going to play out the way you want to. Go outside. Go to the grocery store. Go to Target. Y'all got Target in the UK? Go to Target. It's always something in there. I ain't even gonna lie. Target is where the good women are. Go to Target. 100%.
But money instead.
No Target in the UK? What's equivalent to Target? Do y'all got it like a Target? Something like Target, Hobby Lobby, something like that women just go to. Something like a Waitrose. I don't know what that store is. Hold on, let me see chat right here. Probably Asda, Primark, one of these stores. John Lewis, Sainsbury. Okay. There you go. Try these first. What about M&M? Is M&M a store? Go to M&M. M&S. There you go. M&S. M&S. Try any one of these except B&Q. We're not doing B&Q. I said M&M is still Aftermath. That's crazy. Anyway.
Status only makes it so far.
He had grown to have a very misogynistic view on women, seeing them as something he deserved but could never have. And he began to feel like he had suffered enough and was now entitled to his very own woman. He also believed that he was doomed to be forever alone, and therefore he had no passion or drive in life. One of the main reasons that Jake developed and settled on this ideology was likely due to his long-term commitment to a specific set of online forums on the internet, where he could find and talk to people who thought similarly to himself.
Why you got this on?
Most of his social interaction was nurtured from sites such as Reddit, one of the world's most popular public forums. And while here, he frequently viewed and commented on threads for gun enthusiasts and the Incel movement. We've touched upon the Incel world on this channel before, with the likes of Elliot Rodger and Alec Manassian. But for those
Incel, that is crazy. I never knew that. What was the meaning again? Involuntary. What is it? Involuntarily celibate is insane. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm being insensitive.
those unaware, Incel stands for involuntary celibate, and represents those who find they can't achieve any romantic or sexual success.
That's true. Wait, go back. What's the definition again?
But for those unaware, Incel stands for involuntary celibate, and represents those who find they can't achieve any romantic or sexual success. Jake believed in the
I didn't even know that was a group of people. I never even would have thought. No Diddy, bro, looked like he could get, like, I don't, it was really up here for him, for sure, 100%. He needed real life friends. He needed a me around. I would have, what? Man, let's go. We at the bar. We would have debunked these theories day one of friendship. You know what I'm saying?
black pill ideology, a term used by incels to represent.
He looked like Thor. The wayward, chill. Wait, pause on my behalf. That's crazy. That's crazy. My fault. We're having too much fun in this video. This is a serious video.
Present the view that unless they were physically attractive, women wouldn't want to be with them. This view is generally coupled with two solutions. Either succumb to being forever alone, or find solace or solution in acts of violence.
The reality is, and this is my view, I think a big portion of people don't realise the black pill doesn't just apply to incels, guys. It applies to a lot of guys. These days, not having sex for 6 months or a year for a lot of guys is very, very common. Not getting one compliment from a person, extremely common. You know?
Is it? I get, okay.
Why do you think sexual assaults and all these things keep rising and women talk about it? Because the reality is that women don't need men no more. And they certainly don't want and don't need average men. And below average.
Another forum that Jake would frequently visit is r/Doomer, a forum dedicated to those that believe there is no point in trying in life, and that they've already failed.
I ain't gonna lie, bro, outlook on life is pretty crazy.
Basically, it's a community for nihilists. As you can tell, Jake's online habits were not the healthiest, and he surrounded himself in the next.
Right, go outside, brother. Take a breath of fresh air. Put the sock down. Close the hub down and go outside, brother. Like, golly.
Echo chamber full of negativity, all of which were angry at the world and those within it. All of this negativity and nihilism had made Jake a very unlikable and turbulent person. He'd become unpredictable, erratic, and just generally frustrating to be around. This behaviour concerned many members of Jake's family. They had long been trying to get him mental health support through the public health service, the NHS. But despite this, and much like our previous case, supply was overshadowed by demand. The queues to see a psychologist or even counsellor was months. They felt hopeless. To add perspective to this, Jake's father, who had turned his life around since spending time in prison, had been seeking mental health support for a son since 2017.
Oh, so they was actively trying.
But too much time had passed, and now it was 2020. The COVID pandemic was now ripping through the nation.
I also don't want to undermine mental health while I'm watching this video. I'm trying to, like, keep that in mind. Like, I that's playing a part in everything that's going on that's in his mind too. So can't forget that. We can't just tell him go outside and not forget that he has mental stuff going on.
The public health sector was overrun, understaffed, and underfunded. At this time, the wait for mental health assistance could be years, and Jake's mother Maxine knew this. But she was worried for her son so much that she went as far to notify the police about his behaviour, insisting upon a welfare check on her own son. However, despite this, her concerns would never be chased up by authorities. Which would be unfortunate, as in 2020, Jake would have a public fight with two teenagers in his area, which turned so volatile that police eventually revoked his gun license and his pump-action shotgun.
Was taken.
And although this seems well and good, police noticed there were no previous offences on Jake's record, so they agreed he could have his license and gun back if he attended an anger management course.
Are they dumb? What? Alright.
Naturally, Jake agreed, and after taking this course in spring of 2021, he would receive his firearm back in July of that same year. However, this was a dangerously naive decision, and police had no idea that handing this gun back to this unpredictable man was the key to a tragic event that would occur only 1 month later.
It's like in the Terminator, right? Fate is nothing. The whole premise of the Terminator movies is that everything's rigged against you. There's no hope for humanity. We're on the brink of extinction. These machines are unstoppable, killing machines that can't be beaten, can't be outsmarted. But yet, humanity still tries to fight to the end. And I know it's a movie, but I like to think sometimes, I'm a Terminator or something. And despite reaching almost total system failure, he keeps trying to accomplish his mission.
August the 12th, 2021. The day began like any other summer's day in England, and the quiet suburb of Keyham was enjoying a pleasant temperature of 20 Celsius, 68 Fahrenheit. Residents were busy in the local parks walking their dogs, spending time with their families, and otherwise enjoying the summer evening. But very little did they know that the rage and frustration of one local man was finally at breaking point. Jake Davison, who had finally had his gun returned to him, was festering in his own storm. He had long felt that his life had no meaning, and his hatred for the general population was now reaching its peak. There was one person in his life that he felt he could blame for all the years and future years of his misfortune and misery, a person that loved him dearly. However, he couldn't see it. He had grown to loathe her in the later years of his life. Jake was already in a bad mood. He had just had his Reddit account suspended the night prior for making highly inappropriate comments towards a 16-year-old girl. And with his account now offline, he was mad. In this volatile mental state, Jake picked another fresh argument with his mother, which wasn't uncommon in the household. As said before, they often disagreed with his views on women and life. But tragically, today's argument would end very differently. In a state of rage-filled anger, Jake stormed into his room before picking up his shotgun and U-turning before walking back down the hallway. And next, he burst into his mother's bedroom and shot her at point-blank range, striking
Point blank with a shotgun. What gauge was it?
her in the chest and head. She fell to the floor and was killed instantly. This wasn't enough for Jake. He knew the consequences of what he'd just done, and life wasn't worth living if he would meet them. So Jake didn't pause, he didn't falter. Instead, he reloaded his shotgun before opening the front door, taking to the quiet cul-de-sac of Biddick Drive. Upon exiting from the house, he set his eyes on a man across the road. This man's name was Lee Martin, and he was walking his 3-year-old adopted daughter, Sophie.
Bro was a man of many, he was a man. He adopted daughter. He was doing something he ain't have to. He was really stepping up to the plate. And
Aggressively striding towards the two, Jake raised the shotgun, and upon noticing Jake, Lee tried to shield his daughter, who was happily pushing a toy pram. Jake pulled the trigger, hitting both Lee and Sophie, and sadly, dealing fatal blows to them both.
Oh my god.
Shots rang throughout the neighborhood, most of its residents suddenly becoming aware of a deranged man prowling their street, with multiple phone calls made to the police to report the sound of gunshots.
This is 2 years ago?
Jake continued down the cul-de-sac,
I don't even think if I recall this.
locking eyes with Ben Parsonage and his mother Michelle. Taking aim, he fired another round. Both were hit by the spread of bullets, but they managed to retreat into safety, wounded, the mother and son narrowly missing their untimely end. Jake took to an alleyway before running through a small local park, where Stephen Washington was busy taking a walk with his 2 husky dogs. Jake shot him, Stephen falling to the ground before passing away. Emerging onto Royal Navy Avenue, Jake ran past a bus stop before he began to shoot at random, not caring whether or not people were in the way. At this point, he was uncontrollably expressing his rage and frustration. Standing in the doorway of Blush Hairdressing Salon was 66-year-old Kate Shepherd. She was having a cigarette, unaware of the armed gunman heading her way. And tragically, Jake aimed and shot her on sight. She too was fatally wounded. With Jake's actions spanning several minutes across
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6?
multiple streets, it was more than certain that police were already aware and on their way. It's at this point that Jake knew his path of destruction was coming to an end, and there was no way that he'd be able to live as a free man. He carried on walking down the road, passing a shocked bystander before saying to him, "There's nothing to worry about, mate." Jake realised this was it. He turned the shotgun
They should have sent bro to Texas. Put him on death row.
around, aimed it at his head,
Oh, okay.
and took his own life.
That ain't good enough.
Police and paramedics arrived at the scene just several minutes later. Armed with tactical response teams, ambulances, specialist paramedics, and air ambulances. Jake was pronounced dead at the scene. The attack, lasting only 6 minutes, had claimed the lives of 5 innocent people, and would now bring devastation to the city of Plymouth. As this awful news spread throughout the country, we gradually learned the names of Jake's victims. Soon enough, both police and local media became aware that Jake was the perpetrator, and as soon as that became public knowledge, authorities knew that this event would fall against them. Angry questions soon followed. These questions were pretty obvious.
And they were valid questions. I'm not even gonna open up. This is valid questions. Let's not even forget, he was diagnosed as autistic. You know what I'm saying?
Why was Jake allowed to own a gun in the first place? Why did he not receive the mental health treatment he urgently...
Yeah, he was diagnosed as needing mental health and still was able to get a gun? I'm not saying you can have... having autism is not going to stop you from getting a firearm, but, the mental health of it all,
required, and why was a man as disturbed as him allowed to have his gun returned? Jake was evidently a depressed and disturbed individual, whose nihilistic views on life left him with very little empathy to those around him. And being in the incel community, he surrounded himself in an echo chamber full of like-minded people. Moving forward,
he had nobody around him trying to fill him with life and hope, you know what I'm saying? Bro should have read the Bible. Do something.
the 2 officers who handled Jake's firearms license were disciplined.
No, fired him.
This being specifically related to the confiscation and return of his shotgun. And Jake Davison's case marks a change to firearms licensing in the UK, where officers must now investigate the social media profiles of all applicants.
Makes sense.
The Home Office also ordering all police services in England and Wales to immediately review their practices and determine whether or not any existing licenses needed to be looked at again. So, at least firearm license security is being revisited. But when it comes to access for mental health treatment, nothing has changed.
Nothing.
Which arguably is the most important factor to change.
Yeah, people still downplaying how significant mental health is. You know what I'm saying? It's a very big thing. It needs to be addressed if it's wanting to be addressed. If people are outright looking for help, they should automatically get it.
Here, as it was Jake's
We don't have make time, make space.
deranged mentality that ultimately took the lives of 5 innocent people, including his own mother, Maxine.
That's wicked.
Following Jake's despicable actions, an evening vigil was held for his victims at North Down Crescent Park the following night. Flags in the city were flown at half-mast, and Smeaton's tower was lit up that evening as a mark of respect. Friends, family, local neighbours, and even strangers all turned up to pay their respects to the 5 victims of Jake Davison. Lee Martin, Sophie Martin, Stephen Washington, Kate Shepherd, and Maxine Davison.
R.I.P.
Through my own experience, both direct and indirect, the NHS service is fantastic, but the support given towards mental health is, to be honest, not acceptable. It can take months for anyone to be seen.
I feel like there's a couple things that the UK takes as jokes. Not the UK people, but the UK government and the people at the higher ups. They take mental health as a joke, as we've seen from many documentaries where people were placed in jail instead of mental institutions and in situations like this. And also they take sentencing as a joke.
The more I cover cases involving incels, the more concerned I am over their community as a whole. If you focus your mind and obsess over negative aspects, you're just doubling down on that emotion and prospect. I hope the families of today's victims find strength, closure, and peace moving forward. That brings us to the end of today's case, folks. Thank you so much for watching another video today by Coffeehouse Crime. If you found this video interesting, or you learned something
Very interesting.
new today, then please remember to like the video and subscribe if you haven't
I always like your video, man. Still, man, you should gather up anybody who wants to lose it and take them to the red light district.
yet.
Do they still got those in the UK?
What do you think about the case of Jake Davison? Much like Packer Eric's case, do you think anything could have been done to stop him?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When he asked for the help, y'all should have gave it to him.
And if yes, what? Please let me know in the comments down below. That's it for now.
Alright, man. TLL, leave a like, comment. Let me know all your thoughts.